Sorry, a bit late. Yeah, how you been?
Good.
Yeah.
So how have you been?
Why thanks. Okay, let's just start the class then. Yeah, go ahead, Thân Thiên. Can you say Namo Shak Buddha, please?
Namo Sakamuni Buddha, Namo Sakamuni Buddha, Namo Sakamuni Buddha.
All right, thank you. Okay, Thân Thiên, you remember what we learned last time? What we discussed last time?
Last time you discussed about I remember that you talking about you went over the different type of what is it called? Type of means that the way that the Zen master teach the monks to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's many
Many
story depend on the audience. If they understand the deeper meanings, they would put in practice. Otherwise, sometimes is it like funny stories. So let me tell you one story before we move on. So a Zen master, he practiced in a cave, and a thief came, and somehow he looked around that he could not find anything for him to steal. So the master pointed to the moon, say, "Well, I wish that I have that moon to give to you." You understand, William? Yeah.
The kid wanted something to steal.
Yeah.
And Master said, "I wish I had that moon that I could give to you."
Yeah. What do you think? You understand that?
Well, for one thing, you know, a normal person might be like, "Hey, get out of here. Stop trying to take my stuff." So maybe a relatively surface level of it would just be that, you know, if I had anything to give you, I would, you know, gladly give it to you. If I could, I would give you the moon, just as desiring to be generous.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's for normal people when they read that kind of story. This is funny, but this has deeper meaning than that. Than to give you the moon, right? Anyway, you understand that, Thân Thiên? What did he say? What he try to say? If he could have the moon, so he think that he would give the thieves the moon. So what do you think? It is possible?
I think I'm not quite sure. I think he's give you a meaning of something that help you try to figure out.
You don't know?
No.
What do you think, Miss Tammy? Is some funny? What do you think?
So I take it as like that he's stealing. So like I would give you everything, including the moon, and you will still not be happy. You would still want to steal more. There's no limits to the thievery.
Okay. Yeah, Miss, you understand the meaning of that, or like that's funny story? What do you think?
I think of it in terms of that the Zen master is saying nothing that I have is of any attachment to me anyways, even though there is just one moon that we, in the whole wide world that we know of it, even that is not worth anything to me. So if you wanted it, I would give it to you. So much less anything that's in this cave, it doesn't, matter much to me anyways. I don't hold much value to it. So whatever I have that you want, I don't have any attachment to it. It's for you if you wanted it, even if the moon was available. That's how I understand it to be.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. Yeah, thầy Giáo Pháp, what do you think?
Yeah, no problem. I think Thân Như, she gave a very good information about that. I mean, the Zen master, it means that he not attached to anything, even whatever you think is valuable most in the world or not, he do not attach to anything. But the only thing that he have, but he could not be able to provide to this one is the wisdom. So yeah, as long if he want to learn the wisdom, he will be able to provide the wisdom. But if he not want to learn it, he could not be able to provide that wisdom.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah. The wisdom aspect and the generosity aspect is pretty great, and profound meanings there. Right, that's great. Okay, so again, that's why I love Zen story. At first, this is funny, but if you think more deeper, you understand the meanings. Okay, so let's go back. Before we go back, one more thing, otherwise I may forget. So tomorrow we'll have Full Lang. This means Parents Appreciation Days. We will do online. Yeah, please join in. Yeah. So William, Thân Thiên, and Tammy, we discussed that yesterday, right? And please, Miss Thân Như, could you invite your sister and your family member, whoever? We will send an email to invite to join in. So this is second times that we will do the celebration online because of the COVID-19. But hopefully it's convenient for people, and hopefully in next year, by this time we will not to do anymore. Okay. All right.
Think
Yes.
I send out the announcement to the email to every group. I
Yes.
think they should be able to receive it as well, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We have some children performers online too. Mm. Mm. So it's been for a while. I miss Thân Như. This is probably more than a year, a couple of years that yeah, you and your children have not participated in this kind of celebration, right?
Yes, Tay. Last year we also partook in something, or I watched online.
Oh, you did? I see.
Yes, I did watch online. The last time we did a bathing of the Buddha was in California. It was the last year before Thầy Giáo Pháp moved over
Oh.
to the monastery. But last year we did something online as well. I have to say I believe it was Le Vulang, but I'm not sure if it was Le Vulang or if it was Bathing of the Buddha. But you had something online, and we did sign on for that.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, yeah, let's get back to our lesson today. Yeah, go ahead, Thăng Thiên. Please continue to read.
Yes, more Phật thầy. Therefore, we employ expedient means, making distinction and preaching various goals. But though we preach the three vehicles, we do it merely in order to teach the Bodhisattvas. Sariputta, you should understand this. When I heard this saintly lions and the deep, pure, subtle, wonderful sound, I rejoiced, crying hail to the Buddhas. Then I thought to myself, if I had come into this impure and evil world, and as these Buddha had preached, I too must follow that example in my actions. After I had thought of the matter in this way, I set out at once for Vasanasi. The monks are tranquil, accepting one by all the phenomena cannot be explained in words. And therefore I use the power of expedient means to preach the five ascetics. This I turned the wheel of the Dharma, and also with regards to the sound of Nirvana and Arhat, Dharma and Sangha, I use this term to indicate distinctions. So what the Buddha say is, we use many meanings to teach these beings, to teach the Bodhisattvas that they can understand and follow the way to the Buddha vehicle. And so the Buddha said that he came into this world so that he can teach these beings to follow the example and his actions. Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay. So, my question for you: what do you think about the pure word? Why did the Buddha come to this impure world instead of the pure land? You know why?
The reason that the Buddha came to impure land is to teach the living beings, because in the impure land there are many beings that's a suffering, and they don't know how to end the suffering. They have to go through many life of cycle and of birth and death, and they have to go to many of the samsara. So I think this is the way that the Buddha wants to came into this world, to teach them the way out of the samsara.
You know, most of us like to go to the easy way. We want to enjoy our life. We want to be rich. We want to have a healthy life, healthy body. We want everything to be convenient for us. So the Pure Land is the ideal one. That if someone were born there, they would not do anything. They just enjoy all kind of things there, and eventually they would become Buddha easily. But again, my question is that why did second Buddha choose to be born here in this samsara or this impure world? And what do you think, William? Why is that? Why he didn't choose the easy way instead of the hard way?
Out of compassion. So out of compassion for the sufferings of people living in this world.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Do you have any thought, Miss Thang Như?
No, I think the answers have been pretty complete. I think if he chose to be reborn in the Pure Land, which he could be, but what is his use there when there is so much need in the impure land? There is so much to be done, just like there are many bodhisattvas who their vow is, just like the Earth Store Bodhisattva, that his vow is to not become a Buddha until all the hells are emptied. There is so much need to help the people in the living world, in this impure world, in this impure land. If he were to be born in the pure land, how would he be able to actively or hands-on to help relieve our suffering? How can he help at a distance? And in this passage, it says that there are things that cannot be explained by words. So that's why he has to use examples. And those examples come by expedient means. At a distance, if he is not located in the impure land, how could he be an example first to his disciples, who can then pass it onward to other disciples or other students of theirs? So perhaps he chose to be reborn in this land as an example, so that way it can perpetuate onward. Whereas if he were to be reborn in the pure land, that would be very difficult in the process. And even as it is now, it's difficult. But if he were to be at a pure land, even if he wanted to help, it would be very, very painstaking task. And so this would probably be the most efficient way to help the people in this world.
Okay, thank you. But Miss Tammy, what do you think? Is that ideal way?
I don't know that it's the ideal way, but I guess it has to be the way, because truly, how can you lead others out of suffering if you've not suffered yourself?
Yeah, let's say if you have SP in, let's say, in your business, and yeah, it's much easier for you to do business here in the state. Then if you, let's say, if you go to China, Vietnam, Thailand, and so forth, there's so many poor people over there. But on the other hand, you need to run business, or you need to work to earn income to raise your children then. So how could you divide your times? Why you fulfilling your responsibility as a mothers and to help others then?
I don't know. That's a hard one. Of course, you have to put your family first, your children first, and make sure they're taken care of. And then once you have them 100% taken care of, then you can reach out and help others.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, William?
Yeah, I think that is a challenging area, because as I get more, it's easy to become used to having more. Like in the past, like when I was in college, I lived on much less. But I have gradually gotten used to living on more, and it just it's normal. It's like it was normal in college, and it's normal now. So like really looking outward and actually putting effort to make a significant difference for people. It seems like it doesn't just come naturally or happen. I mean, some things come my way, and then those are the easy things where I can say yes to, where I don't have to really expend any energy to find the person that needs help. But if it just comes my way and I can say yes, and that's like a very easy way to help. I definitely think that there's much more I could do, but there is the balance of like, okay, well, if I take away this time from focusing on growing my business, then my resources that I will have to be able to help people in the future, those won't grow as quickly. So for me, it is an ongoing conversation. Like I certainly have a lot of area to grow in it. So I do look for the things that I can do and try to stay open to ways to help that fit into my life. And then also looking at my daughter, it's important for her to learn generosity. So it even becomes a part of parenting in a way of demonstrating generosity. So it's like being generous to others is actually also then benefiting my own family too, just by being a role model for my daughter.
Yeah, thank you. Remember the story that how when the Buddha passed life was a prince, that he sacrificed his life for the 5 tigers, right? So it's just go beyond thinking, right? Go beyond human thinking. And so again, in practical sense, yes, like you say, as long as we have intention to help other people, we can grow a business while we help others. We don't need to forego or to run away from our own responsibilities to take care of our families, especially if you have a little children. That's what you need to fulfill first. But in the meantime, yeah, you can share with other people as long as you have that good intention. Then, so that's the way we can balance ours. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Could you mind to read next, please, William?
Certainly. Okay. From infinite kalpas in the past, I have extolled and taught the law of nirvana, ending the long suffering of birth and death. This is how I customarily preached. Shariputra, you should know this. When I looked at the Buddha sons, I saw incalculable thousands, 10,000s, millions. Who had determined to seek the way of the Buddha, every one with a respectful and reverent mind. All coming to the place of the Buddha, persons who in the past had listened to other Buddhas and heard the law preached through expedient means. Immediately the thought came to me that the reason the thus come one has appeared is so he may preach the Buddha wisdom. Now is precisely the time to do so. Shariputra, you should understand that persons of dull capacity and small wisdom, who are attached to appearances, proud and overbearing, are incapable of believing in this law. Now I, joyful and fearless in the midst of the bodhisattvas, honestly discarding expedient means, will preach only the unsurpassed way. When the bodhisattvas hear this law, they will be released from all entanglements of doubt. So in this passage, the Buddha is speaking to Shariputra about, it seems to me, the point when he began to preach the great vehicle. So early on in the beginning, he was using more expedient means to prepare people and to kind of gather the people around him that were able to eventually then hear the the great vehicle or the higher laws, the higher teachings, but he had to prepare all of the groundwork first. So he describes this moment at which this thought comes to him that now's the time to preach the great vehicle, that he could see that there were, enough people there who had the right level of consciousness, the right ability to receive the teachings, and that it would then be meaningful, and that it would be helpful. And then also he re-emphasized that people who are, arrogant or who are lacking in merit and virtue, that they can't believe in the law. And so I think it's because, this is why he waited to preach it, is because he had to gather around enough people that could actually believe in it and grow using it. So, and then I think it's just regularly the Buddha is saying how powerful this law is, and how when bodhisattvas hear this law, they'll be released from all entanglements of doubt. So it's just a punctuation on the power of this law.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so in lives, somehow we need to wait for the right moment, the right person, the right place, and so forth to tell others, right? If we tell the right person but at wrong place, wrong times, they would not understand. They wouldn't accept that. So everything should be right. So again, here the Buddha says it's the right times, the right moment, the right place, and right people for him to speak about the Buddha wisdom. That's been the Buddha nature. So again, it takes times. He need to wait for that moment to tell them. Otherwise, they wouldn't accept that. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Thân Như, please.
The 1200 arhats, they too will all attain Buddhahood. Following in the same fashion that the Buddhas of the three existences employ in preaching the law, I now will do likewise, preaching a law that is without distinctions. The times when the Buddhas appear in the world are far apart and difficult to encounter, and even when they appear in the world, it is difficult for them to preach this law. Should I continue, or?
You
Yes.
could finish it. The last
Yes,
two.
thank
you.
Throughout incalculable, innumerable kalpas, it is rare that one may hear this law, and a person capable of listening to this law, such a person is likewise rare. It is like the Udambara flower, which all the world loves and delights in, which heavenly and human beings look on as something rare, but which appears only once in many ages. So the Buddha is saying that he teaches the law, and he's teaching it to people without any discrimination. But he also emphasizes that how, in terms of timeliness, it's difficult to encounter a Buddha. And it's difficult when they arise in the world. That's already difficult. But when they arise in the world and they preach, it's also more difficult. And even more so, even if you are in the presence of the Buddha and he is preaching, both of which he emphasized that it's difficult to have that kind of encounter. But for you to be a person who's able to understand the Dharma as it is being preached, it is of such rarity. And he went on to say, it's so rare, just like the presence of the Udambara flower that blooms or occurs only once in many ages, or once in a lifetime. So this emphasizes what you had said, the timeliness of how we are able to to hear the teaching of the Buddha, but the karma that we have to be able to to be in the right moment at the right time to witness the Buddha, to hear the Buddha's teaching, but also to be able to understand what is being taught to us. All three things have to line up, just like the planets have to line up for things to align well. All those things are very rare, and it is within our karma, within our luck, for us to be able to benefit such blessing.
Thank you. In Buddhist view, nothing's come from the sky. It would have some reason, some causes that could be happen. So if someone have the chance to meet Buddha, yes, it's pretty rare, but they have to have the condition. They have to have that kind of connection with them. Otherwise, it's not easy. Like for example, like us, we have the chance to study his Dhamma, but we don't have the chance to see his physical body in the actual way. So again, probably in the past we raised some kind of karma that we just have the chance to meet with his Dhamma only. So here, let's say 10 kampas from now, we will become a Buddha, right? And we will be his Bodhisattva. So because we have that kind of connection, remember the story we talked about the 80-year-old monks, right? He in the more than 84,000 lifetime before, he just sincerely yell to the Buddha names, or exclaim or call Buddha names sincerely, and that's the Siddha plan with the Buddha. So later on, he could meet the Buddha and become his disciple, and definitely attain the hardship too. So that's why it's not the coincidence, it's not the fate, but somehow there's some kind of connection, some kind of reason occurs there. Mm. 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 So William, you have any thought about this?
I think between the people on this call, I wouldn't guess that I would be the next one in this group.
No, we don't know. We don't know, like, yeah, we don't know. Probably yes, even your doubters. Yeah. Last time when Thap asked the whole group of children, I think I remember that he asked, what did the queen see in her dreams? When responded,
Yeah, she did respond. Yeah.
What you say? What you say about the dreams of the queen? Remember that?
The mom of Siddhartha.
Remember that?
What she saw in her dream.
You don't remember?
An elephant with a lotus in her hand.
Yeah, wonderful. See, yeah. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know. Even they still young. If they have potential, they can practice more diligently than us, or they can more quicker than us. Who knows? So that's why the Buddha said that don't despair or don't look down upon the beginners. Who know? Even now in this lifetime they're beginners, but who know? They have the root. They have the good root with Buddhism since the past life. So we don't know. Of course, we need to respect the senior one, the one that study Buddhism before us. But still, with that kind of mentality would not look down upon anyone else. Yeah, that's why in this sutra, and in the later, I don't know which chapter, the the chapter that talk about Bodhisattva who used to bow to anyone else that he met, and he said, "Oh, I'm not there. Yeah, I not there. I'm not there to despair you, to look down upon you, because if you practice, you will become a Buddha." Right? That chapter. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Thank you.
Hey, can I may I ask a question? Because you were saying about how it's all conditions and connections.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask about your master.
Yes.
Master, was it Shuanghua?
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to ask you, because the rest of us are not as blessed to be learning under, or experienced under him, but we are blessed to be learning under you. So I wanted to know, what was it that you were imparted from him? What did you learn from him?
Wow, that's a big question. I cannot summarize in a couple of words, or even the paragraphs, or even a paper, right? This is a lifetime learning. So anyway, let me summarize not the thing that I learned, but somehow the connection. So let me say in brief. Somehow when I was in college, the last year of my college at Penn State University, so I took a Western Buddhist course with a famous Buddhist scholar, Dr. Chao Prebish. He retired now, but he wrote many Buddhist books. So somehow it triggered my interest in learning Buddhism, especially in the West. And somehow when I searched around and I came across to what do you call the Vaja Buddhist journal that was published by the City of 10,000 Buddhas, and from the time I learned about him, but somehow I felt I have connection with the Zen master Sui Yuen, the one that lived up to 120 years, and yeah, because I have determination to become a monk when I was freshman. So after I done with my college year, I moved to California and so forth, and went there. So yeah, during the course of my staying at my master temple, you can say that's I learned a lot. Let me give you one example. That even I could not speak Chinese well. So one day, when we did the circumambulating, walking around the Buddha hall, and I remember that one of my you can say elder Dhamma brothers, he walked in front of me. So the master just came and pushed the sleeve of his sash, so that it could be proper, and I learned from him at that instant. Even he didn't teach me anything. So I remember that as a monk, I have to be proper. I have to have the proper conduct. And plus, at that time, I could understand that he taught us that we need to walk in the proper way, not in curving the body. I have to keep our back straight. Yeah, this is the physical conduct. That's physical posture that we need to have, and you can say that numerous teaching that he taught us. But one thing you can say that most of all us agree that he never praised anyone else, whether they are lay or monastics. He never praised anyone else. You may wonder why, like William. For many years I've been with him. He never praised any one of them, or any one of us.
Would he criticize anyone?
Yeah, more criticism. You can say that.
Huh.
What do you think? Why is that?
Well, I mean, what do we really get from praise? Like,
Huh?
we definitely get something positive from criticism, but praise can kind of be spoiling in some ways.
But in American way apply is different. You need to praise your daughters when she does something proper, right?
Yeah, I do. I definitely do. I think.
Some culture, but not in the monastic environment, especially with my master.
I think like the reason I'll praise my daughter when she does something well is because she can become frustrated and she can lose her desire to do something if she feels like she's not doing well. And if I want to encourage her to keep doing it, and if I want to be able to help correct her when she does it wrong, and to keep it being something that she wants to do, I need to really acknowledge her when she does something right, so there's a balance and that she enjoys it. Otherwise, I'd have to be threatening her in order to get her to do it. Like tennis. We were playing tennis today, and so I can correct her when she's doing something wrong, like kicking her foot when she hits the ball. But then when she does it right, like I have a chance to balance it out, and then I feel good actually when I'm praising her because she's happy and she wants to then like keep doing it, and then she feels good and she'll even put more energy in it. So, but maybe it's different with someone who has decided to become a monastic, is that they're already determined. They're not going to, they're mature in in many ways, and they're not going to give up on something. They're already going to keep going. So, I mean, even the attention of pointing out something someone needs to improve, if he never praised anyone, the corrections themselves could become a form of praise, because he's taking the time to correct someone when he has so many, he had so many disciples, that if someone was lucky enough to be singled out for correction, then that in a way is like saying that, a praise in itself, perhaps.
How about Miss Thân Như? What would you think?
I have multiple thoughts on this. I feel one, just like the monks that have to go around with the alms bowl in Burma and countries like that, the monks are still doing this on a daily basis. They go out with their alms bowl and they seek food, and the purpose for that is for him to be humble. It's for your ego, to squelch your ego. So it's to build your humility. So perhaps your master, and I remember reading, I think he passed away in the 90s, I believe, in the 1990s. So during the time that he was with you, perhaps he feels he has such limited time in this world. He has so much to teach. And perhaps he is also helping to develop each monastic person's humility, to help you build your character, that kind of humility while you are pursuing your path. And that part is so important. And perhaps, when you praise somebody, it's really excessive energy, and what is the returns and the investment perhaps would not be as direct if you criticize or critique functionally. If you are able to do productive criticism, constructive criticism, you are able to redirect that person right away. So there is a a consequence right away. You learn from it right away. So it's a combination. I'm thinking that he has so much to teach you in such a short period of time. He needs to get straight to the point. And also, it also helps build your humility as a monk, that you don't feed on your ego. And if he praises one person, it will breed a certain resentment perhaps in another person who did not receive a praise, and perhaps that is also not constructive as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so he passed away in 1994. Yeah, yeah. So actually, you can say that he followed a conservative practice. He trained us to discipline ourselves. Let me put it this way. From the time that I enter the city 10,000 Buddhas to the time that I left that center, I did not put my back to the floor for more than 8 years. And again, this is not the requirements, but this is the encouragement. And most of us and all of us did that.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was reading the preface to the Surangama Sutra, and I was reading his background.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask if you, being his student, still do not sleep lying on the ground.
Not now, because now plus I have some problem with my digestion, so so I could not sustain that practice. It's very intense, and yeah, on the top of that we eat one meal a day, but because of my illness, right now I have to test something with my medicine. So again, that's just the style that he trained us to do. But it's pretty important that we need to recognize the essence, meanings of those practice. It's not the thing that we torture our body so that we can show up to other people. We need to understand the essential meanings of that practice. Let me give you one example. I remember that the first year when I went out to live in Southern California, I mean that a few years after he passed away. He passed away in 1994, and I left my monastery at the end of 1998. So I went to India to study a little bit about Tibetan tradition for 9 months. After that, I got back to the state, especially I landed in LA. That's where I met your families. So I remember this really funny story, and I learned that. And again, in our traditions, we're not supposed to stay in a room with a female alone. We need to have at least couples. And so remember that this be one this funny story. I think you remember the place that I lived there, right in Los Angeles. This small house, right? That's one of my friends, and now he become a monk. He still live there, so he has two houses, one in the front, one in the back. So he let me to stay there to give a teaching to the local people. And traditionally, let's say for during the first day of the lunar month or the 15th day of the lunar month, people like to bring the fruit, vegetables, and so forth to offer to the Buddha at the temple. So because that place is so small, and that's one old lady, I think she in the early 70s. So somehow she walked into that small house with intention to offer, I think, some rice, some special rice, fruit, and so forth to the Buddha altars. So, because I was trained in the monastery so many years, I got used of not staying alone with one lady, whoever, right? So I stepped out and I told the lay man, the one that allowed me to stay at his house. I told him, well, you need to tell that lady she's not supposed to come in that house because I'm alone there. So what happened while I was talking with him, she's right behind me. And what happened then? I never see him again. I never saw her again. You understand? So I learned the lesson. We have to be flexible. We have to go. You have to live with the principle, but they have to be flexible with the situation. Especially they feel old. Right? At that moment, at that time, I was so rich because that's what I was training about. Yeah. So that's why I learned that lesson. I told the junior monk now is that, yeah, you have to be uh, upright with your conduct, but you have to be flexible in some circumstances. So if you're so strict and you don't recognize the feeling of other people, they would run away from you. You will not have much chance to teach them. And on the other hand, you have to know how to conduct yourself as a monk. So again, that's a really funny story. So I learned from lesson. I learned from that kind of lesson to be flexible, but to stick with the principle. Yeah.
Can I ask you one last question? I know I'm digressing. I wanted to ask if your master was a person of few words. Does he speak? Does he speak only as needed?
I think so. Yeah, we consider him as great Bodhisattva. He has great wisdom, and even he has foreseen this COVID-19 pandemics in I think 1980s. He made that kind of prediction, and right now among the Chinese and Vietnamese Buddhist communities, they recognize him. They recognize his prediction back in the 80s. So he made that kind of prediction, and this happened now. So he is not normal monk, and that's why we trust him with everything he taught. This is so appropriate, or it is so proper for us to follow. Did you read that type of news, Miss Thang Yu? His prediction in the 80s?
No, Thầy, I did not read about that. But I'd like to read about that. I would like to see what it is. So I will look that up.
It's been circulate when I think, especially Vietnamese communities, and I think some Chinese people, they recognize too, and they can give you some link back to that kind of prediction that he had made in the 80s.
Yes, I will look that up. If you can send me what you have, I would appreciate it. But if not, I will also look and search and see what it is that I can find, because especially if it's in English, it would be easier for me to read.
Now, one thing I want to do is that that's, you can say that only you are in that kind of situation you could recognize. Otherwise, it's, you can say, unbelievable. That most of us, whenever we talk with him directly, somehow we're scared, and we're not scared because he trained us. We're scared because he could read our thoughts. Because we have to be careful what we have here. He know most of the time. He know, so that's what that we scare when we interact with him. Yeah, this is not normal. He's not normal monk that we can see nowadays. Yeah, he's so special, he's so unique. That's why even he passed away, but his teaching is still relevant, especially within the Vietnamese Buddhist communities. Yeah. You understand that aspect, Ms. Thang Như? You hope
Yeah,
you hope that.
yes, I have heard of his practice and his he has the sixth, I don't know what it's called, the sixth sense, but he has basically cultivated and he has been able to have certain, I've heard about the certain powers that I don't know if you call it powers, but he has the mental acuity to be able to see beyond what it is that we are capable of seeing with just our natural visual senses. He really sees, his visual awareness is very acute.
Yeah.
Beyond what it is that we our true senses. He really taps into the true senses, not anything that is that has any discrimination. He really taps into his true mind, I suppose. That's what the vocabulary that we use, that I understand it to be.
Yeah, if you have a chance later on, go to one of his branches in Long Beach, San Jose, or even the city 10,000 Buddha. You can order 2 volumes or 3 volumes of his biographies that were published by City of 10,000 Buddhas. So after he passed away, it talk in detail about his achievement in life. Have you read that type of volumes before?
No, I have not. I've only had, I've heard of him, and the only background I've heard is the foreword to the Shurangama Sutra, because he does have explanations, because it's a difficult sutra, I guess, for the lay people to read. He has extensive explanations. And so prior to the explanations, it had a background on his, a short biography of him. And so that's where I read it to be, to understand. And I just found a few things very interesting in his practice. And so that's why I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. So William, when did you come to the city 10,000 Buddha with your mom? In the early 20s?
Let's see. I graduated high school in 2004, right? Yeah, college 2008. So it would have been, 2001, 2002, somewhere in there.
So you stay overnight over there, or just pay a visit? That's all.
We stayed a few nights.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think we maybe even stayed like close to a week.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So what was your first impression about that center? Is it like cultural style, or what? What's your first impression about that center?
Well, it's huge, for one. The campus is huge. It's very peaceful. The weather was fantastic. There's these big, beautiful trees, and the buildings are all pretty well spaced out. The Buddha Hall was very impressive, a converted gymnasium with, the 10,000 Buddhas lining it. And then the central altar area, just these massive statues of bodhisattvas and the Buddhas, and like great vegetarian food that was served. And you had all of the, the monks and the nuns were separated, but you would see them, walking around doing their thing. And then I really liked the evening chanting was just awesome. And then when you talked about the circumambulation around the temple, there were peacocks that would literally position themselves to I forget which direction it was relative, but kind of across from the temple on each side of these stairs, and they would fan their feathers out. They do this every evening. They would just position symmetrically, fan their feathers out, and kind of shake their feathers and turn in circles as people were chanting, walking around the temple. And places like that often, like I remember feeling intimidated about going to places like that, because I would feel like I would have to, you know, very much be on guard, kind of for a similar sort of feel of like what you expressed with Master Swanhua, being able to read your thoughts, but like a different level of it, where just being seen by like someone who was clearer and who wasn't struggling with as much as I was at the time. But I didn't run into any of like really feeling like, I felt very welcome. Like folks were very nice. There were helpful people there. I met an American monk, and he was very friendly and was willing to talk with me about stuff. And then there was a man who wanted to become a monk and was living as one for a year. And he recommended the Six Patriarchs Jeweled Platform Sutra for me. And my mom really enjoyed herself. She even, you know, started trying to do some meditation out there. So all in all, really, I mean, I would go back and visit if I could, you know, if I get kind of an opportunity where I'm in that area, I would love to go back and visit and spend some time.
Yeah, one thing before we close today is it's been, you know, when we were in college, I didn't imagine that one day I would be a professor.
Uh-huh.
Love engineer career. Yeah, I think I'm good with math, science, and so forth. But since we become a monk, somehow I volunteer to teach the little children in high school, because we have the high school there, and that's why your mom brought you there, right? She would like you to go to high school over there. Is that right?
I wanted to.
Or you want to? Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to go over to high school over there, but my dad said I couldn't. He said he wouldn't let me go.
So somehow my teaching career start from there, from when I entered the monastery where I practice meditation and so forth. So we divide the times to do the work. Some of us we work in different field, but for me, I work in the school to teach the younger one, the high school, even I taught math, calculus, and so forth. And somehow that's got my momentum of teaching after I got out of my master center. When they went here, when they went to Indiana, so somehow I had the chance to teach again. So it's like the wheel turning, right? So at first I applied to teach non-credits at UVL, Bellarmine, and so forth. So they accept me, but later on they went back to school to get my PhD degree, and now I'm professor. So again, that's somehow that's it's not my core, but somehow it is the karma then. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So you have any more questions, Miss Thang Yu? You've been there several times, right?
I've been there once, and I went with my aunt and my sister, and we stayed overnight, and so we stayed a few nights, and we partook in the early morning. I was just in college at the time, so I felt it was I was very excited to be there, a little bit intimidated as well, but to get up at 3 a.m. to go and pray and do the recitation at the Buddha Hall, and then eating once a day, and then nighttime prayers before bedtime, and it was early, like by 7:30, 8 o'clock we were done, just and everybody turned in. It was just it was like going to camp, it felt like, and it was very interesting to me. I did really like it. It it gives you a sense of peace there, and I really like that. Having that kind of leaving the big city behind and going there and being able to tap into your inner tranquility. I really enjoyed that, and I'd like to go back. And that was the first time that I was introduced to, because I heard that the Zen master, the master Shuanghua, was the one who developed that center. And then after that, then I did go to the Long Beach Monastery a few times as well. And then I started taking classes, and I met you at the time that my grandmother's passing.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I think before we close today. So in the past, we didn't have cell phone when it was at my master's center. So when I taught in the school, I have a chance to talk with the public through the phone. I mean the live phone. And so sometimes, I got the phone call from the Vietnamese Buddhists and asked me that why do you need to follow a Chinese master? There's so many this master around there. Why don't you follow them instead of following a Chinese one? So I say, well, this is my karma. This is my affinity with him then. So it's just simple like that. In this lifetime, we may be Vietnamese, American, Chinese. Next lifetime, we may not be. So because we have some kind of connection in the past, that's why we end up here together. That's why I go back to the things that we just discussed. Only when we raise some kind of affinity with certain Buddhas, Bodhisattva, or Arhat, we will see them again. If we don't have any kind of affinities, there's no way. Well, that's why the Buddha encouraged people, whichever thing we want to create affinity, whether even putting the palm to salute or offer a fruit, whichever way we can create that type of what you call dharma connection with them. So that's why most of the time the Zen master or the teacher go around to give the lecture or to give the teaching. That is the way they can create what we call dharma connection, so that eventually we can teach or guide them. So it's go beyond. It's go beyond nationality. It's go beyond race. Go beyond uh, personality. This is just somehow we have that kind of connection there. It's a strength, Miss Tammy. You learned a lot, right? In practical sense, right?
Yeah, no, it all makes sense. It's not too strange.
How about you, Thân Thiện? Yeah, if you met me 20 years ago, you would see how strict I was, but not much now. Yeah, because I have to be flexible with communities. It's not the monastery anymore, but these communities have to be flexible. And that's why I have the strength, to stay at the monastery in Cordon, right? When it was there, at first there's no electricity, no water, nothing else except trees and hills. So I enjoy to stay there. So I really enjoy to work outdoor because I was trained in that kind of distance. And remember, I stayed one place for a year. It's not at the city 10,000 Buddhas, but one of the nearby centers is 1 hour, more than 1 hour from that place. And you know what? I stayed by myself alone for a year, and especially summertime. In California, it's pretty hotter than this area. At that place, we have what you call walnuts. Walnut trees. Miriam, walnut trees, right? Especially in the summertime when when the fruit was ribbons, somehow they fall down to the ground, and many squirrel or mouse would come and eat them. And guess what? A lot of rattlesnake. And I had to stay in that type of area. And whenever I step out the house, I have to wear the high boot Otherwise, we'll see them lying down nearby. I mean, across the door.
Whoa.
Yeah, everywhere. It's everywhere. It's big, and I use my young followers. As I caught more than 10 of them, not by hand. No, no. I use the bucket, big bucket, and use the stick to shelter them to the bucket and release back to the mountain. So anyway, that's that type of training I could handle. If I didn't follow him or I didn't get that type of discipline, I think I would not have the kind of strength and determination to stay alone in one place, especially in the secluded place like in Corden. Corden is still safe to compare with California, the place I lived for 1 year. And I told you, when I walk out, even some of them, they sneak into the house too. Yeah, this is what we have to accept that situation, and that's our training too. Anyway, this is a lot for me to tell. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's finish up today. Thank you. Thanks for asking this question. And you can, I think, you can order online too, right, Miss Thân Như, if you want to read his biography in English, right?
Yes, I'm sure I could find it. I'm sure I can find his books. I can Google it. And
Yeah, William, you read some of his biography, right, William?
Yes, I don't know if it was a while ago, but I remember reading it. I don't know if it was a multi-volume book or if it was a single book.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd be a good idea to go back and look at it again. I
Right.
remember him. One of his vows was that he would learn to fly.
Yeah.
Like he was resolved that, like the Buddha said, that arhats could fly through the sky, and that he would be able to fly. And I always wonder if he ever, if he was ever able to do it, but he just couldn't say, he couldn't tell people.
But at least he could read the mind,
Yeah.
the mind. And actually, one of or many of his vows that he vowed to be born here in the impure world instead of the pure land. So until our heart, until whoever live here to become Buddha, he would become Buddha. So that's one of his vows. So it's just incredible. And yeah, again, Thong Thiên, if you want to learn more about him, yeah, you log online, right? CD 10,000 Buddha, you can order some of his book then. Okay. And actually, right after he passed away, I translate based on those volumes. I translate his biography into Vietnamese, and it's been circulated around the Vietnamese Buddhist communities for many years. Even they print in Vietnam too. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's finish up here. Please remember, if you have time, please Miss Thân Như invite Miss Thân Tư and your families to join tomorrow.
yes, thầy.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Thân Thiên, please say may I mean that Namo Shaka Buddha, please.
Namo Sakamuni Buddha. Namo Sakamuni Buddha. Namo Sakamuni Buddha.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So see you.
Thank you, Thầy, for your stories and for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Great question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.